Hey, it's Mike Lynch with AmeriFirst Financial, and it's time for your Monday morning mortgage update for the week of May the 2nd. Happy May. Hope you guys had a great weekend. It was awesome. Great weather, cool April nights in Northern California. So a lot of pent up demand, I think. And we've been saying that for so long with all these events that are happening in 2022, but had a great weekend. So what happened last week and what are we looking at for this week? So last week really ended the week flat. There really was no change in rates. We've had 2 weeks of this and we're in this flat pattern, but hey, all that's going to change this week. We've got some big stuff on the docket as far as things that can move the market, and we'll go through those. So what are our 3 things that we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the Fed's meeting this week. Jobs, big jobs week with a lot of reports coming out, and then a lot of global stuff, a lot of world events that are impacting pricing. So let's talk about the Fed. The Fed's meeting again Tuesday. They'll end their meeting on Wednesday. Then they'll come out with a presser that says, hey, this is what's happening. And so we're really focusing on 2 things that are going to move those mortgage rates this week. We're looking at the interest rate hikes that are happening and what's going to happen this week. And then we're looking at quantitative tightening. So let's talk about interest rates hikes. We know that the Fed a couple months ago raised the Fed fund rate for the first time really since COVID hit us, and they raised it 1/4%, and they need to do this. It's been at 0. Now it's 1/4% higher, and they're going to do it again this week, and they're probably going to raise it at least 0.5 point. Heck, there's some Fed members that are saying they should raise it 0.75 percentage point. So what's that mean? Does that directly affect mortgage rates? We know that it doesn't, because mortgage rates are determined by the trading of mortgage-backed securities in the bond market, not what the Fed does with the Fed funds rate, which is really what the media reports. So that Fed fund rate affects equity line rates, home equity line rates, car loans, credit card rates, but it also has a direct impact on the money businesses are charged when they borrow money. And we know businesses need money to live, so that has an impact. And that means if the businesses are paying more to borrow money, that cost is passed on to the consumer, and that just means everything costs more. So why is the Fed doing this? Because it's the primary way that they can fight inflation. They raise that Fed fund rate. It costs more money to borrow money. We pay more for stuff, and that slows our spending. So if prices go up, and we know inflation is causing prices to go up, the higher it costs businesses to borrow and for us to pay for stuff, things more expensive, we slow our spending. It actually means that businesses turn around and reduce their prices, and that is how high interest rate hikes with the Fed really slows down inflation. It's a long-term process. The Fed basically has drove us into this because last year they said inflation wasn't an issue, and it is an issue. So Wednesday, they're probably going to hike at 0.5%, and that's one issue. But they're also going to tell us what are they going to do moving forward. And we have, counting tomorrow's meetings, we have 6 more meetings with the Federal Reserve. So if they're going to raise that rate 6 more times, there's some indications that the Fed fund rate could be 3.5% by the end of the year. That's a big number. So if you're paying 5.5% for a home equity line, that rate's going to go up to 8.5%, 9% by the end of the year for a home equity line, and other costs as well. So very, very impactful. But in the long term, this Fed raising this Fed fund rate is good for rates, for mortgage rates, because it'll slow the economy down, maybe drive us into a recession, which we've been talking about, and that means mortgage rates come down. The second thing that we're looking at with the Fed meeting is this quantitative tightening. So we know the Fed's not dumping money in the bond market anymore, but they're also they're slowing down the reinvestment into the bond market, and that really could move rates up. Because it's less money buying bonds, which causes money out of the bond market and mortgage rates to go up. So the Fed meeting is really the most impactful thing, and that will end on Wednesday. The second thing we're looking at is jobs. Big jobs week. A lot of jobs reports coming out, wage data, unemployment data. So every single day this week, there's a jobs number. And as we see greater employment, lower unemployment, that's better for the economy, and that typically drives rates up. So two things that we're going to be looking at this week, the Federal Reserve and jobs numbers, are really going to move rates to the worse. And then we got the third thing, and that's really what's happening around the world. That is kind of that opposite effect of what's happening with the Fed and the jobs. And this could move rates down, actually. We've got a couple big countries having their Federal Reserve meeting. Australia, Bank of England, they're going to raise rates. And this is just a pattern we're seeing globally. We're also concerned about the China slowing down with their draconian keeping everybody inside because of the COVID virus, and that slows production down. That means we don't get stuff. And if we don't get stuff, we can't make it. Prices go up because it's low demand or low supply. And then Ukraine and the Russia situation has not slowed down in any way, shape, or form. It's actually escalated. That has an impact globally on many economies, and that pushes rates down. But if we look at what's happening this week, we have more things happening that could drive those rates up than move them down. And so as we start out the week, we start out the week actually locking into that Fed meeting, because we've got a lot of information that really could drive these rates up. So if you need any information, any advice on locking, don't hesitate to give me a call. If you know somebody that could benefit from this video, please forward it. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Have an awesome week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.